Microsoft Edge. It really syncs.
Were you working on that one, Brad?
I sat on it for.
It's pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. If folks, if you haven't downloaded it yet, you can go download the developer, which is going to be updated every week. The Canary, which will ruin your day at some point sooner rather than later, more than likely, or wait for a beta.
Yeah, how do we know that that's updated, or do we?
That I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like there should be a little icon or something that says, "Hey, we've put new bits" or something.
Yeah, I mean the version number is exactly the same as it was yesterday, so I don't believe that it's updated.
It would be pretty Microsoft-like to do a daily thing, and then on the first
And not
day it's
do it
available
daily.
publicly, it doesn't actually do it.
Uh,
Kumbaya.
yeah.
But yeah. So for those who are curious, things that will not sync currently are
All of them.
well, your history, your settings, your open tabs, address, phone numbers, and more.
By the way, and
Passwords.
more, if I'm not mistaken, includes payment methods.
Hmm.
The language they use there is a little vague, and it's different from the language they use elsewhere. So, yeah. Anyway, most things don't sync, so it kind of doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Unless you use 1Password, which is not a paid promotion.
Actually, probably should have mentioned that. Of course, people who use password managers would not be
And this
impacted by
is
that.
exactly why I started using one.
Yeah. I mean, there's other stuff that it syncs, obviously. It's not just passwords. But passwords, I would say, is the most important thing. It does not sync right now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I forgot to do right before the show started is folks in June, we're going to be in Washington, D.C. at Shift Happens Conference. You can find the link in the description below of the post. It's a collaboration. We're going to have our friend Mary Jo's going to be there. Paul's going to be there. I'm going to be there. We are going to be.
We have a lot of travel coming up, dude.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, I'm going to New York this week. It's just for a day. See if I can even remember all this. Washington, D.C. For Shift Happens. We're going to be in Miami for VMon. We're going to be in... Oh, well, I'm going. Mary Jo and I are going to the Netherlands for an event. And I might be going to China in 2 weeks, although that's been going about as well as every other attempt I've made to go to China. It's basically one of those hurry up and wait type situations, because I think the people sending me go to China a lot, and they're not really all that concerned about it. I've never been, and I am very concerned about it. So, also, I just realized
And then there's Seattle.
Seattle for Build, of course, right? I'm going to be going out to Vancouver the weekend before with my wife. That'll be interesting. I feel like there's more. Is that everything?
Are you going to New York next week for the
Oh, yeah,
thing?
I got New York next week as well. What day is that? Tuesday, hopefully.
Tuesday? I don't know. I don't think I'm going.
Oh, you're not? Oh, boy. Well, look at you.
I mean, it's a Surface Hub 2S.
It's a 2X.
It's not even the 2X. It's the 2.
Wow, now we're drawing a line. Surface Go was good enough for you, but Surface Hub 2S is not good enough?
Yeah, I mean, I've already touched a 2S. We both did it at Ignite.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I'll probably go to that. I forgot it was next week. Dude, I wish I remembered what day it was.
If only there was some sort of tool that you could use to plot in your events.
Oh, or if only there was a tool where someone had invited me, and then I could search and just easily find that invite. But I'm using Microsoft Windows Mail, and I don't know if you've ever tried to search
Why would you?
Yeah, why would I hate myself? I don't know, Brad. It's a long story. It just inbox died. It ruined everything.
There's this beautiful
I literally
thing
have
called
been...
Newton Mail. It's back. It's at least here for a few more weeks until it inevitably gets cannibalized again or something.
No, I can't. I'm not going to pay for something like that over time. If there was a one-time payment and it was reasonable, I would think about it. But I'm not even going to look at it.
Well, you can continue to suffer in silence.
Well, I'm not going to suffer in silence, but I will continue.
Well, we know
to
that.
Yeah.
What else is going on? I don't even. It's the Google has a cloud event today, which is making me wonder if that's why everything's kind of.
Yeah, next 19. This is a cloud event is like Google's enterprise, or I guess you call it enterprise cloud. It's like their their version of AWS/Azure. I don't think it's particularly interesting. I don't think this is going to be a big deal.
Well, they got a new leader, so.
Yeah, Diane Green's out. Is that who was running it before? Diane Green?
Yeah. And then Opera's got a new
Green.
browser because they didn't want to be left out of the new browser parade.
Yeah, that's true. I like what they're doing. They use some terminology that Microsoft used to use back in the Windows 8 days when they used to talk about getting out of the way of the content and letting the content bubble to the front. They do that kind of thing. So they have what they're calling like a borderless UI. It's minimalist as possible. Also based on Chromium, if you're into that kind of thing. Free VPN, right? Which is supposed to be very performant. It looks nice. I think like you, I try these things. Like Firefox is maybe the most mainstream example. Opera certainly, Brave as well. I use them, and at first it seems fine, and then things are like not quite right for me anyway, and then I eventually go back. And I think that's the thing, honestly, that's most interesting about Microsoft Edge. I engaged in this pointless Twitter argument yesterday with this kind of Microsoft-centric fellow, and I think he's missing the point because what he wants is everything to be like Microsoft, and what he was saying was that Microsoft Edge should look more like Edge. To which I replied, that's absolute nonsense. It needs to look more like Chrome. And I think the reason is, when people bring up a Windows 10 computer, they use Edge to install Chrome. So this thing looking like Edge isn't going to solve that problem. But if they bring up this thing and it looks like Chrome, they'll be like, oh, I already have the browser. Like it might actually work.
Yep.
And I think the goal is to attract more users. You don't want to appease the 3.5%. You want to appease the other 96.5% who are not using your product. And I think making it look more like the thing that is the market leader is the success point there. Plus you have additional features that are advantageous.
Well, and then they're also not chasing Google either. I mean, that's...
Yeah. You got to remember, back in the day, Microsoft ran into antitrust trouble for bundling, product bundling. And at the time, it kind of boiled down to the power of the default. We still talk about this. People tend to use the thing that comes with the thing, right? And so in the case of a web browser, that means it used to mean Internet Explorer. These days, they're not doing that. And I think that's what's fascinating. Microsoft's web browsers were so bad, they trained a generation of people to go to the web and find something else.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to overcome. And, look, whatever you think of Edge today, it certainly has its great points. There's no doubt about it. But it hasn't been good enough to prevent people from doing that. And I think that's not like we talked about yesterday. Remember, there's not one reason, but I think it's one of the things that has contributed to the failure. And it's one of the things that Microsoft needs to fix with the new one.
Yep. And then, Paul, I have a theory. A theory, and that is maybe sprinkled on by some people at the company inside. So 19H2, which is just oddly not there, and it could be just small feature updates or whatever. There's also some thoughts that potentially that's got some build announcements tucked into it, and that is why they have not explicitly given us that access. And people are saying, well, couldn't you just find them in 20H1? Well, Microsoft could neuter everything that gets merged into that branch until after build if they really wanted.
Okay. That's plausible. I will say it's equally plausible that our original thought is correct. This one will be minor, and that and we will get an announcement at Build, and it will be that, and that the big stuff is coming in 20H1 and is not in the product currently, of course, right? It seems like
I'm betting that there's potentially maybe some Windows Lite stuff in that build, and that's why they're
yeah that could
back.
be. Oh, okay. I will say that's plausible for sure. Yep.
Just knowing the timeline for that stuff, I bet it's sort of in there and they can't really get it out or whatever. So keep that in mind when you...
maybe it'll be more interesting than we thought.
Or not.
Or not.
We could get Paint 3D Remix out the remix.
Oh, jeez. Yes, please.
Paint 720.
Another way for me to add confetti to my videos, something like that.
Yeah, that feature never really took off. Is it
sure,
even
the dinosaur chasing the girl across the soccer field because...
Is that even in there? I'm sure it's got to be in there.
I'm sure it's sort of in there. I don't know.
It's definitely buried.
I mean, for whatever it's worth, that must have been 2 years ago whenever they announced that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was impressive. You know, it looks impressive. Don't see a lot of videos on YouTube of people making the dinosaur chasing the girl on the soccer field or
It's
whatever.
impossible to find, I think, is probably the number. First off, you have to open up Paint 3D Remix version 12 or whatever the hell it is called. And then
Yes.
you have to, and it's called Paint, which they have, to your point, they've trained a generation to know Paint as this white box where you can just paint in, not where you can open up Paint and then put all that stuff in there. And maybe they pulled it out. I don't know. I was going to look on this thing. Video. Nope. If you type video, you get Trusted Microsoft Store app. But that's not...
Okay. So actually, it's funny you say that because if you type it, let me see if it comes up. Actually, I'm not seeing it.
Paint 3D.
It's got to still be in there. If you look in the start menu, I believe there's a video something app that literally just opens photos, right? Because it's like a video editor. Didn't they do that? I don't see it.
I
thought
feel
that
like
was
they
in there
did
for a while.
something and we're missing something obvious here. But
I'm running 19H1. It's possible they got rid of it, but I believe in the previous versions of Windows 10, it was just a stub and it just went to Photos. And the Photos app is where that stuff is instead of being in a
do I
separate
have
app.
any videos on here?
Let's live create a Tyrannosaurus Rex video.
I'm not above that. I got time.
Actually, okay, the problem with 19H1, of course, is it's still pre-release, and so the apps are older versions. So the Photos app doesn't even have the stuff we're talking about in it. Am I missing something here? I think I am. It's nothing. This app is it's like it was in the first version of Windows 10. There's nothing there.
Yeah. But did they,
Oh, well.
It's somewhere.
Two Windows experts struggle with Windows tonight at 11.
You're not wrong. Well, I would qualify that we struggle with Paint 3D.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. It's like telling me I haven't mastered emojis. You know, it's like I can sleep at night. It's okay.
You got anything else for today on this wacky Tuesday?
No, I'm just going to keep plowing away on the Edge stuff. I don't know if you've switched to it. I think right. You're using Edge. Yeah, I like it a lot. Obviously, it's interesting what's not there, what is there. You know, you published a thing about the Google features that Microsoft stripped out. There's an equally interesting list of features that's a lot shorter of things that Microsoft is committing to adding in a future version. Some of that stuff is actually hidden in Edge flags, right? So, for example, I found that smooth scrolling is in there and dark mode is in there. And some of them aren't. You know, there's some other features, some accessibility stuff, and I don't remember the entire list. But I've kind of created a little list of topics I'd like to, write about for this new thing. And, of course, as it improves over time, there'll be more and more. So that'll be kind of a focus, I guess, of sorts for the next week or so, I guess.
Yeah, there is
kind of interesting.
one thing in those flags which is very important, at least it was for me. If you use the media keys, like the play, pause, skip, and all that stuff, right now Edge, and Chrome does this too, or at least it's going to, hijacks that functionality. So if let's say you have YouTube open and Spotify open and your browser's open and you hit that play, pause button, it's going to play, pause the YouTube video rather than skip tracks or whatever on Spotify, which for me is a big deal because I always have music playing and I want to be able to hit that button and have it stop. So in the flags, you can actually turn that functionality off in the browser, which is very good. So if you turn that off, your media keys will be back to just controlling
We'll
Spotify.
make a note of that. Media keys, you say, yeah.
Yep. If you just open flags, hit media, I think it's like the third. There's like two of them that kind of sound like it, but then you'll get to one that says like media key functionality, and you just hit disable, and it fixes the problem right away.
Yeah, I was looking to see if they had, in the current version of Edge, they have the ability to halt all autoplay content, audio and video.
Yeah.
Super useful, right? So the new version of Edge works like Chrome, where on a site-by-site basis, you can go up to the site info box and say mute for audio, but you can't auto stop video, right? So the video still plays, but at least it's muted. It's kind of a halfway step toward what we really want. But in searching for that in flags, I did see the media keys thing, but I didn't really look into it too far, so I wasn't really sure what that was. But I mean, I think over time we're going to have a nice list of flags that we can enable that will make meaningful change. And then, of course, we won't need them because, the thing will ship and it'll just have the UI will be there or whatever. But it's cool that we have that stuff. I mean, it's kind of a neat thing for people who like digging around. You're going to find some cool stuff in there.
For sure.
Actually, I do have one more thing, Brad, if you don't mind. I think you will find this interesting as a Grammarly user. Steve loosely writes and says, I know you use Grammarly like I do. If you block third-party cookies and install the Grammarly extension from the new Microsoft Store, Grammarly will not work. You cannot stay signed into Grammarly to check the spelling in your Outlook.com email, for example. You must disable third-party cookies to use the Microsoft Store extension. I'm not doing anything with regards to third-party cookies. I would assume those are blocked by default. I'd have to go look that up.
The question becomes, what if you use the Chrome Grammarly extension?
That's actually a big question. That's something I need to investigate, because for the past 2 weeks, you get that Grammarly email on Monday. It has said I've done, well, last week it was 800 words. The previous week it was 42,000 words. And then this week it said 0 words. And so clearly the version of the Grammarly extension that I have installed in Edge, because we've been using it since before, when it leaked, it's not working, right? So I don't remember how I installed it, despite the fact that I've literally installed it now in probably 4 different PCs. And it's a little ponderous to test because, how do you even test that? But I guess the thing to remember here, I guess my rule of thumb would be look for it in the Microsoft Store, and if it isn't there, go to the Chrome Web Store.
Yeah.
And of course, you have to enable that support first in settings. But I assume that's what I did, and so now I'm confused why Grammarly hasn't been working. I guess we'll see if the Canary and Dev channels are available now, so maybe that will change and it will just work. Maybe my issue was the pre-release thing that no one has to worry about, but just something to keep in the back of your head if you track that kind of stuff. Yep. I kind of like getting that email on Monday, whatever, and when it comes in and says 0, it's a little deflating, a little deflating. I wrote a lot last week.
Did you, or did you write 0?
I did. Well, I thought I did. I don't.
Apparently
maybe I'm
not.
living in the Matrix. I don't know.
Apparently not. Yeah. All right, folks. So that wraps it up for today. We will be back tomorrow. Have yourselves a wonderful Tuesday.